Our president is in Israel today, and he says America is its strongest ally and greatest friend.
The president promised that the United States is committed to the security of Israel. Chris Mitchell was there, and he tells us what else to expect from the president's trip to the Middle East.
President Obama stepped off Air Force One in Tel Aviv and conveyed his greetings to the Israeli people.
Thank you so much. Good to see you here. It's wonderful to be here.
The visit is dubbed Unbreakable Alliance. Some have called it a charm offensive. According to polls, many Israelis don't trust Obama, but Obama says this is his chance to connect with the Israeli people.
I see this visit as an opportunity to reaffirm the unbreakable bond between our nations, to restate America's unwavering commitment to Israel's security, and to speak directly to the people of Israel and to your neighbors.
It could just be for the better, just to come to Israel and feel how it really is, and to be friends with us.
If he thinks he's going to come here and, dictate to us how we should go about security issues and peace with the Palestinians, stay at home.
I'm excited, but I don't have a ticket to see him.
But for many analysts, the president's timing seems a bit odd.
There's no Israeli government really that's organized itself and has its policies ready. There's certainly no Palestinian leadership representing the Palestinians.
And with Obama arriving less than a week before Passover, some Israelis liken it to Netanyahu visiting the U.S. on Christmas Eve.
But because he's announced that he's coming, and because Israel and the U.S. are the best of friends, and so he'll be very welcome.
From the start, both Israel and the U.S. downplayed any idea of major breakthroughs.
The president is not coming, as previous presidents have, either to lobby for a specific policy in the way that only U.S. presidents can do, or to take a victory lap upon the success of a policy.
Still, there's need for serious discussion.
I think Iran is probably the biggest issue, and I presume Obama will say the same things that he's been saying.
And then there's the stalled Israeli-Palestinian peace process. President Obama is scheduled to visit Palestinian-controlled Ramallah on Thursday. Then Friday, it's the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem. There, Palestinians showed their disappointment with the president's first term by trashing a giant Obama poster.
He doesn't do anything for the Palestinian people. He just talks and doesn't do anything.
I think that there is no help from Obama to our situation in Palestine, because they always talk and there is no result.
We got hope, Always we got the hope in this trip.
One analyst says it may just turn out that the most important part of the visit is that it happened. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Tel Aviv.
Well, I think the Israelis will be on good behavior, and probably the Palestinians will as well. The question, though, is not the rhetoric. He's great at rhetoric. We've got a president who can really make speeches. The question is the policy implementation, and that's what you've got to watch, and I'm sure that's what the Israelis are watching with a jaundiced eye. Well, while the president is talking about peace in Israel, the American military may get involved in a war in another country in the Middle East. Lee Webb has that story from the CBN Newsroom. Here's Lee.
Pat, the American military commander in Europe, says NATO is planning for possible military action in Syria, and U.S. forces are part of that plan. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, who serves on the Armed Forces Committee, says the U.S. should be prepared to send in troops to secure Syria's chemical weapons. The House Intelligence Committee chairman says there is a high probability that the Syrian government used chemical weapons Tuesday. President Obama has said that using or transferring those weapons would be his red line for military intervention in Syria. Here at home, housing starts are on the rise again. They jumped last month to their highest rate since 2008. Analysts saying that a housing recovery would be a boost for the overall economy and increase the number of jobs. But the housing market still has a long way to go to get back to where it was before the recession. Housing starts aren't even half of what they were before the recession. Cyprus lawmakers rejected a plan to seize up to 10% of bank deposits. The money would have been used to partly fund an emergency bailout. Many people supported the vote and are cautiously celebrating that decision today. Others, however, worry that rejecting the tax could mean the bailout would fail and lead to a financial disaster in Cyprus. Cyprus needs nearly 16 billion euros to bail out its banks and shore up government finances. Eurozone countries and the International Monetary Fund pledged to provide 10 billion euros in rescue loans, but Cyprus has to come up with the rest. Pat, where's this headed, do you think?
Well, they're going to make an initiative toward Russia. I think some of the Cypriots are going to Russia to ask for the loan, and in exchange, they have some very, very valuable oil and gas properties off their coast, and they're going to say we'll trade those properties in exchange for 5 billion euros or whatever they're looking for. I think there's a little bit of money they need, a seed money, in order to get the big loan from the banks in Europe. So we'll see what happens. But that move they made was dreadfully unpopular, and I think it sent shockwaves throughout the international community, because that meant every bank was suspect, and the banks in Portugal and the banks in Ireland and so forth were suspect. And that was not the kind of message that the Cypriot banks need to send. But on the other hand, their banks are closed. They may not open yet. Lee?
The Senate's gun control bill will not include a ban on assault weapons. Democrats have pressed for the ban since the December murders at an elementary school in Newtown, Connecticut. But Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid says the measure does not have the votes to make it out of the Judiciary Committee or even pass a full Senate vote.
And I'm not going to try to put something on the floor that won't succeed. I want something that will succeed. I think the worst of all worlds would be to bring something to the floor and it dies there. People are deserving of votes on their issues they feel so strongly about.
Reid says he's still pushing for the gun control bill to include extended background checks and a limit on ammunition clip sizes. The potential for new gun control laws, though, has led to an upsurge in sales, and it may surprise you to learn that the fastest growing segment of U.S. gun buyers is women. And as Andrea Garrett reports, that fact is not lost on the folks who own gun stores and shooting ranges.
In Albuquerque, New Mexico, Caliber's Shooting Sports Center has seen a 40% surge in female customers in the last 2 years.
It is somewhat empowering for a female to be able to protect herself with this specific tool.
Lindsay Fassler is a firearms instructor at Caliber's, and she teaches a ladies-only class.
We don't go into shotguns, we don't go into any AR-15 type things, we stick with just handguns.
It's a trend reflected across the country. In 2005, just 13% of U.S. gun owners were women. Today, that number is 23%, a 77% increase in the last 7 years. While women are showing more interest in shooting sports these days, most women will tell you they're buying a gun for another reason: self-defense. Fassler says many of her students are single women, as well as single moms, who don't think pepper spray or whistles offer enough protection.
Especially those single mothers who are by themselves. They really want to make sure that they can handle whatever they need to handle.
It's just the fact that for me it would be that if I needed it, it would be there as a last resort.
Andrea Garrett, CBN News.
Pat, I taught all three of my sons how to shoot. My daughter's waiting for me to take her out to the range.
They'll surprise you. Christy, do you know how to handle a pistol?
Very well, my son.
Yeah. Well, I won't mess with you, darling.
Yes, I love it. You know, even when I was in college, I took some ROTC classes and was the best female shot. Thank you very much. And then,
were you really?
Yeah, many, many times I have gone to the range and love it.
So you're a tough lady.
Brother, don't mess with me. I'm just saying.
Wait, talk about the great equalizer. This is it, Lee.
Well, Pat, today may be the first day of spring, but winter isn't going out quietly. Millions of Americans in the eastern half of our country are in the path of a new storm, and it's bringing more snow, ice, and even tornadoes. Charlene Israel has that story.
New Englanders welcome spring today with as much as 16 inches of snow.
Thought I was done for the year, but I guess not.
It's ridiculous. We're tired of it.
Half of the country is in the path of this latest storm. In the Northeast, it's bringing dangerous icy conditions, sending cars sliding across roads.
This is bad. I stayed myself about 10 miles an hour with flashers on, but I'm telling you, you got to stay safe.
In the Southeast, cars weren't sliding off the roads, but being blown off. The brutal winds of up to 80 miles per hour left thousands without power in Alabama and Georgia.
We've got down power lines, and we want to make sure that everybody is safe.
Schools across the Northeast remain closed today, many districts adding days to their calendar to make up for the ones missed from snow. New England has already received more than 100 inches this season.
So much for the groundhog, huh? I think you got that one wrong.
Charlene Israel, CBN News.
And that storm system also hit other parts of the northern U.S. As much as 2 feet of snow had been predicted for the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Sugary drinks have been linked to 180,000 deaths every year around the world. A new study by researchers at Harvard also tied the drinks to 25,000 deaths here in the U.S. It echoes other studies that suggest sugar-sweetened drinks are hazardous to your health. The American Beverage Association, though, criticized the study, calling it more sensationalism than science. They say it does not prove that drinking sugary beverages cause chronic diseases like diabetes, heart disease, or cancer. And we want to emphasize that there are probably other links to this sort of thing. I mean, folks who are drinking these large sugary drinks, Pat, probably have other factors as well that lead to bad health.
They do, but this certainly adds to it. I mean, if you gulp down a big gulp every day or 2 every day, it won't be long before you've taken into your system so much sugar. It's the sugar that does it. And on the other hand, this Equal and NutraSweet, whatever they call it, that's death. It's an excitotoxin, and those diet drinks are really, in my opinion, almost worse than the ones that have the sugar on them. But we'll talk about later on, as we've got a health segment, we're going to talk about a study from Yale University. I just read in the alumni magazine today about a study talking about sucrose and fructose, and I'll tell you what they found.
That's good to know.
Black pastors in Chicago are voicing their opposition to a measure that would legalize same-sex marriage in the state of Illinois. Last month, the state Senate approved legislation allowing gay couples to marry. A group called the African American Clergy Coalition is targeting the black community, though, with radio spots and robocalls. Those pastors are asking residents to urge state House members to vote no on the bill. The group is also planning a street campaign. Egyptian Christians who were recently released by Libyan militias say they were tortured. 2 of them told of being rounded up in a market by gunmen who checked their right wrist for tattoos of crosses. Libyan militias have detained scores of Egyptian Christians in Benghazi for allegedly proselytizing. One died in custody, and his family says he was tortured. You can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.